We didn't get to qualify again, so we'll start on points, which is how we did it last year. I think the car feels really good, and I feel pretty confident, so hopefully we'll be able to move forward.
Martin Perret, your engineer, has come over from Andretti Green Racing. How has he improved your oval racing ability?
Well, I think he's really lifted this McDonald's team. I think that he's taken us to a different level, not only me as a driver, but as a team. The experience that he has, a lot of the little tweaks that he knows from the past, I mean, very successful over at AGR, he's bringing with him. And I think, you know, the proof is in the pudding. You can see the results we've had this year. And although the final result may not show it, certainly our speed has been up there almost everywhere we've gone. So Martin's doing a great job, and so is the entire McDonald's crew.
The last oval they raced, Graham Rahal was 4th at Milwaukee. Figures to be up toward the front again today.
And that's just two of the guys we're going to keep our eye on. And obviously, we'll be keeping an eye on that young lady right there, 27-year-old Danica Patrick. As we take a look at their run this year through 6 races, comparing it to last season, they had 2 poles and 1 win and led 205 laps. This year, 0, and only 40 laps led. And of course, if you were watching the race from Texas, you know that there was some late race action as Marco Andretti was trying to pass Danica Patrick, and Marco was not too pleased, and he let everybody know about it.
The toughest people to pass was my teammate at the end, so I don't mind racing wheel to wheel, but you know, that got a little crazy out there.
You know, I'm not going to give positions up, but I didn't make it hard when he got next to me. He made a really great pass on me.
And I think 3 out of the 4 of us get the camaraderie of Andretti Green Racing, so I think we have to have a sit down.
Everybody's racing hard, everybody's racing against each other, and I'll bet you each driver today was mad at each other at one point of the race.
She understood afterward that she basically cost herself a position at least, and maybe more, because she didn't work together.
Once he got alongside me, once he got up on me, I didn't come offline, and he passed me fair and square, made a great pass.
Was she playing at the time like an Andretti Green teammate? No, we all don't at some point.
It's just the emotions get going so much, and especially after a race like that where you're just never get your foot off the pedal. It's an intense night, so once we went away, everything kind of calmed down.
We all realized within the team what happened. She realizes, we talked, and it's no big deal.
Marco was the faster car, so he could have used her to pull up instead of trying to hold him up. And so, I mean, after talking, she was very cool, and she understood, and she, you know, she just, she won't do that again.
Well, the problem when all these things happen in front of the camera is you hear what the follow-up is, but now the fan at home is saying, is it true, or is everything over?
Well, I question whether it really is, you know, because as a driver, you want to be so competitive. You want to beat everybody, including your teammate. But I have to wonder right now, is Marco Andretti frustrated to a point that Danica's getting everything that he probably wants to have, you know, the opportunities in front of her? Is he frustrated to a point and just a little bit jealous, maybe, possibly, Marty? I mean, I'm wondering about that. I talked to him yesterday. He seems happy with it, but he knows he's not getting the performance that he wants.
Well, a lot of things have been happening for Danica Patrick, obviously, because she has got a lot of things on her mind and on her plate. Take a look at the fact that she is in her best year ever in the IndyCar Series in the points. Her transition through 05 to 09, and where she is now 32 points behind. And take a look at this. This is some of the things that are going on. This is the cover of NASCAR Scene, and look who's on the cover. It is Danica Patrick right there. And of course, the rumors are swirling. Where will she be next year? And she's in a contract year.
I don't know yet. I don't know what all of my options are. I don't know with who and where at. So until those things come in, I really don't know. I'm very open-minded to everything right now. I'm not pushing really one way or the other. I'm just ready to receive all of the ideas.
I think Danica at this point has a lot of options ahead of her, and she's got to make different choices, whether that's to go to stay AGR, where she's doing a really good job and the team are doing a good job for her this year, go to Ganassi. NASCAR is obviously the big rumor, so who knows, but she's got a lot of decisions to make pretty soon, I would say.
I did, you know, I asked Danica, do you want to be here? And because I said we would like you, and she's like, oh, great, you know, I want to stay too. So if we could put a good, fair offer in front of her, I think she's going to be back with us. There's
a lot of little things to consider after. You consider the driving part, but the driving is the most important thing.
We feel she deserves to race for an IndyCar team that can give her the best opportunity to win races.
Now, isn't that interesting? Because 3 years ago when her contract was up, Ganassi Racing wasn't involved.
It wasn't on the list, but you know something right now? She's a difficult decision in front of her simply from the fact that you have to make a decision based on equipment and the chemistry and winning races. Sometimes show me the money gets involved, and she has to make sure that she chooses right.
All right, well, we'll keep our tabs on that one. We're just minutes away from the command to start engines. We'll be right back after this message from our ABC stations.
May I have your attention, please? We are 1 minute to the command. 1 minute to the command.
Attention race fans, if you have a scanner radio to hear.
Back here at the Iowa Corn Indy 250 at Iowa Speedway, the rain came in heavy this morning, but it has broken and it is looking great, and the stands are going to be full as we get ready to go trackside to get the third edition of this race underway.
Speedway fans, are you ready to go IndyCar racing? For those 4 most famous words in motorsports, please welcome back the chairman of the Iowa Corn Promotion Board, Daryl McAlexander.
Drivers, please start your corn-fed ethanol engines.
Fireworks in the background, and you heard Daryl mention that all the cars today running on 100% fuel-grade corn ethanol. 78% of Iowa's fuel comes from ethanol today. Take a look at our Iowa Corn starting grid across the top, and again, we'll remind you it is done by entrant points, not by driver points. That's why Elio, thanks to Will Power's help, is on the pole. So as the engines come to life, what do you think is going to unfold here in the early stages?
Well, changed track conditions with so much rain last night. All the rubber's probably off the racetrack. It will be a new racetrack for all these drivers rushing down here to turn 1 once they take the green.
All right, well, let's get our final updates from pit lane. Brienne Pettigo is up first.
Well, for AJ Foyt Racing, the past 4 races has meant 4 different drivers for this team, but with the addition of Ryan Hunter-Reay, who's basically on loan from Vision Racing, the team now has a little bit more stability. Ryan will stay with the team through the remainder of the season, subbing for the injured Vitor Mira. But remember, this is the first time that this driver-team combination has worked together. So everybody is going to have a bit of a learning experience today. Vince?
Well, on the heels of some dissension between Danica Patrick and Marco Andretti at Texas, which we've already documented here in the pre-race show, this weekend here at Iowa also got off to a bit of a rocky start for Danica and Marco. First, for Danica Patrick, she struck her left rear tire changer, Lenny Gucci. Gucci suffered a leg injury and will not go over the wall today. He will be replaced by Craig McCain. Now, McCain was over the wall for Danica a year ago, so they will not be using a fresh crew member, so to speak. Then for Marco Andretti, also in the early practice, he had an incident. He described it as a rear wing failure. The car was unable to be repaired, so the team pulled out the car he ran at Texas and made the changeover for this track. However, Marco got only 2 laps of practice. Those were called installation laps, basically just to make sure that the car was operating properly, but those laps were not at speed. Marco Andretti's team keeping its fingers crossed they'll have a good race car today. Jackaroo?
Hey, Vince, if you're looking for an X factor today, take a look at the exit out of the pits. From Helio Castroneves to the end of the pit road speed limit of 60 miles an hour, more than 1/10 of a mile. Very unique. In fact, only here at Iowa Speedway do we have this type of scenario. What does that mean? Well, when you come out of the pits, when you're done, you just can't step and steer and mash the gas. You're going to have to keep your wits about you and make sure that most of the time, your nose of your car is first across this red line. Fellas?
Jack, I'd like to tell you to get out of there because things are going to get pretty hectic here pretty soon. Thanks, guys, for the update. Let's check in on the onboard situation. We've got 6 with Dan Weldon, Ryan Briscoe, Danica Patrick, Dario Franchitti, EJ Viso, and Ed Carpenter. So plenty of views from front to back in this field as we get ready for 250 laps here at the just under a mile oval at Iowa Speedway. Look at this crowd. Can you believe this, what they have accomplished in 3 years?
It's a great racing facility. Variable banking here starting at 12 degrees, working up to 14 in the turns. Really tough for the drivers. More percentage time turning here than going straight. It's demanding.
42,000 spectators, everybody on their feet as we are getting ready to go green here at the Iowa Speedway. It is an all Penske front row. Castroneves on the inside, Briscoe on the outside. As they come around turn 4. We are racing and we're green.
Green flag.
Just that quickly, that's how the laps fly. And we got a crash down in turn number 4 involving 2 cars. One of them is EJ Viso, the other is the 06 of Robert Dornbos. And Viso, can you believe this? The luck this guy has had. This is the 7th race of the year, and he has yet to finish a single race. This being the 3rd crash, the other 4 mechanical.
And you know, one of the most likable guys you will find in this paddock area.
So just as we wrap up lap number 1, and you can see there is a lot of debris out there, and be careful not to run over it. That's what's left of Dornbos's front wing. But he will be able to continue. He'll have to come in.
The left front
wait
suspension
a minute.
is broken, Marty.
Gone,
it's,
yeah,
the camber was way off on that, so no doubt that those cars had contact, or he collected EJ if that's the case. But we'll find out what went on here. Disappointing for both drivers, and all you want to do is learn this racetrack and get some miles in. Now let's have a look here and see what happens. Up on the top side, the 13 of EJ Viso, probably going a little bit too fast, too soon for the first lap, and ends up catching the wall. And then with all that melee going on, you end up seeing Dornbos in the Newman Haas Lanigan car starting to get all collected in that. Now we're right along with EJ Viso on your left-hand side. Let's just watch to see what's going on up front here. He gets a little bit loose. Off he goes, and on your left-hand side of the screen, you will see that Dornbos is already spinning himself.
And Dornbos really was his own problem there, as it was very slippery. We'll go side by side. Stay with us.
Friday afternoons through August, bring your car out and run it on concrete drag strip. The next 3 legal drags we'll have at the Iowa Speedway on Friday, June 26th.
Welcome back to the Iowa Corn Indy 250. You saw a shot of the 14 car, and Ryan Hunter-Reay is out of this race as well. He was involved, and the pits are open, and there is one taker. Danica Patrick is coming down pit lane, so a very early stop for the 7 car. Jack?
A very unexpected opportunity for Danica Patrick and her team. They saw on the telemetry a tire starting to go down. They changed all 4 Firestone Firehawks. Discretion the better part in this early going, but she loses that valuable track position she had from starting on points, guys.
Well, but also you got to remember this is a 3-stop race minimum. The window goes to about 80 laps, which equates to about 240. So you need 10 more laps, and here we are working lap 6 under yellow.
But regardless of that, with the pressure's going down on the tire, you got to come in. It's a must-do.
Yeah, but it may not hurt her in the long run. Let's go back and show you what happened. This was actually 2 separate incidents. Look at Schechter high there, and then here goes Vizo.
Everybody is wiggling. The cars are wiggling. We talked earlier about how much rubber is not in the track, and you can see the 606 car of Robert Dornbos, amongst other cars, are also going sideways and getting collected at the same time that EJ Vizo is having his problem. Now remember, no rubber on this racetrack, and it's certainly not even 2 lanes wide right now, let alone 3. So at the very beginning of the race, it's a great opportunity to pass cars and make up some time, but you got 250 laps you got to finish around here.
Vince, you've caught up with Robert?
We've seen what it looked like from the onboard cameras. How did it look from the cockpit? What was your experience there, Robert?
Well, yeah, very similar. I mean, I don't know what was wrong. The car balance was just really bad. We had a lot of oversteer straight away. Tried to warm the tires as good as we could, but just didn't feel good. And into turn 3, car got sideways. We got a bit loose, and then I got collected by the ABC car. So it just hasn't been a very good weekend for the 06 crew and for Newman Haas Lanigan. And forget about it and work hard for next week.
The team has taken the car to the garage. Are they going to try to repair the left front suspension so you can get back out and run more laps, or are you done for the day?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's not very important for me to run more laps. If they want me to, I will do it. But most important thing is that we just get our act together and get better results.
Robert Dornbos, his first appearance at Iowa Speedway, certainly hasn't, at least at this point, ended the way he had hoped.
Well, and we saw EJ Vizo trying to take advantage of the early track and conditions and get extra spots on that start. This is the one guy who really succeeded. Thomas Schechter picked up 6 positions.
And if you get bravery points, Thomas always gets them all, no matter where he is in a race car. Now you see on the top side the 23 car. Watch what he does here. He gets past the start-finish line. He's on the outside of 1 and 2. Everybody else gets off the gas just a little bit, and he gasses it. Now the 06 he just went past was Robert Dornbos. Did he say, hey, maybe I should be taking my foot off the gas and turned around and maybe tried to drive a little bit too hard? But by certain, Thomas Schechter gets the award for moving up the most positions. Started in 16th and now is sitting in 9th spot. Amazing.
Yeah, it is. So a great run for him. Let's check in with EJ Vizo, Brienne.
Thanks, Marty. Down here at the Medical Center, EJ Vizo. Unfortunate doesn't begin to describe your season. So far, DNFs in every race. How do you explain all the bad luck?
It's very tough to explain this. It's been very unfortunate. We've been doing a huge effort. The team is working very hard. I'm working very hard. Things were looking good for this one. Yesterday I had a great pace on the race, stream race it up, and everything was looking good so far. Going into corner 3, just my rear was very, very light. Controlled it once, controlled it twice, but then the 3rd time it just went completely sideways and I had nothing to do.
The good news, guys, he is okay.
All right, thanks, Brienne. As you could see, we went back to green flag racing as they finished up, and it is Elio Castroneves trying to jump out to an early lead. And look at the 9 car, Scott Dixon on the high side, getting past Ryan Briscoe.
And at the start of the race, he was trying to do that on the low side. I was watching him throughout the weekend. His car certainly seems to work the best 1 lane off the bottom. So look for him to try and run that car just a little bit off the lower range today.
Boy, and look at Dario Franchitti. We're on board as he has moved up and trying to take over 3rd position and has cleared the 6 of Ryan Briscoe.
Oh, I love it when you see the vapor trails coming off the rear wings of the car here with so much moisture in the air. A lot of downforce on these cars with these 3-element rear wings.
Jack, you've got more from pit lane?
Yeah, Scott, you're talking about the amount of downforce. How about twice the amount of downforce that these cars ran in Texas. Meanwhile, what you're seeing Team Penske do, Helio Castroneves is trying to conserve some fuel, but they're trying to put some distance on themselves and the target tandem of Franchitti and Dixon. Why? Because they remember Milwaukee, where Ryan Briscoe dominated, and then they gave up the lead and the win in traffic. They don't want to find themselves in the same position right now.
Well, we got a great battle for the lead right now as Helio Castroneves is trying to hold off Scott Dixon. Dixon's got the preferred low line.
And what he's trying to do is Dixon comes out now, try and move Castroneves up the road a little bit so he can keep Castroneves high, make Castroneves lift off the gas, and he wants that line. Now he'll move up in front of him and take that line away from him.
There's the view from third place. Dario Franchitti, he's watching all this with the best seat in the house.
Oh, back, wheel to wheel now, darting back on the inside. I couldn't believe it.
Helio has got damage on his right front wing.
And the left rear tire is flat of Dixon, and that is very fortunate for Dixon that the yellow comes out, because he would have went into the turn 3-4 wall.
Both of them get a break because of the contact and the yellow coming out immediately. That's what's left of the wing.
Now in this scenario, the tires are going to be faster to change in that front wing, but little distance might be lost here originally on this stop. But I was just amazed at Castroneves. I can't believe you turn around and this early in the race make that type of move.
So we are under our second caution here on lap 18. 250. Let's go back and show you again.
He's on the inside, did not lift when he should have lifted because his car was starting to walk up the road. And look at the control that Dixon has on his car in the number 9 target machine. That is amazing. That could have been just a worst accident, both cars going off. That right front wing slices through the tire, and then the tire is flat, and they catch that. Remember, this is at 175 miles an hour.
Here comes Scott Dixon. Jack, it's all yours.
Easy coming in. Easy.
Scott Dixon is down on pit road because they have a problem with a tire going down. Now, there will be no penalty. He will be allowed to change that tire despite the fact that pit road is closed. You notice they did not add any fuel. He will go to the back of the line, however, but when the pit's open, they'll be able to continue their service and take on fuel, and 3 more Firestone Firehawks.
Take another look from Dario Franchitti's car.
And what ends up happening is Helio should have just relinquished here and just got his foot off the gas, had followed in and started to draft Dixon down the backstretch. But right now he just thought, hey, he's going to give me a bit more space. Both drivers fighting for the same piece of real estate.
And there is Helio making his way down into pit lane. And here comes Dario Franchitti as well. Jack?
Remember, 60-mile-an-hour speed limit for Helio Castroneves. He has the first pit. They are going to remove that front nose, the damage severe on the outside element. They've got that off. They're putting on the second nose now. It's 2 simple bolts that they have to screw. And the 9 cars in finishing their work. First off was Helio Castroneves. His work was done before Scott Dixon could complete his tire exchange.
All right, so let's try and reset this for you. It is Ryan Briscoe up front right now, and right behind him is the 23 of Thomas Scheckter. That's right, he started 16th. He has moved up to 2nd in the rotation, and Marco Andretti is in 3rd. So a lot of things have happened. We'll go side by side. Stay with us. a lot of action going on here. You'd think it'd be the last 10 laps. And we can tell you Mario Marias got a black flag for blocking. He has served that drive-through penalty. Let's set it for you. You're looking at our race lead. Ryan Briscoe, right there, you're on board with him, in front of Thomas Schechter, who started 16th and is in second. And now Helio Castroneves is starting to make his presence felt after the round of pit stops. He is 12th, trying to get around Ed Carpenter for 11th, and he does.
And you can see how much faster his car is driving into the turn, carries the momentum, the speed. And the 18 of Justin Wilson trying to follow in behind him. You know, we saw that fast change of the wing on the Penske machine. We talked about how great their organization is. A lot of teams have wings ready to be changed. The settings are already at the settings the race car was set up for when it started the race.
When we were in side-by-side, there was a lot of action. Take a look at this. Watch the 24, Mike Conway.
He goes in there and surprises Danica Patrick, takes up the space that she thought she wanted to go to, and left no room for the 02 McDonald's machine of Graham Rahal.
And here's the view from Dario Franchitti. Boy, he's had a front row seat for just about everything.
Oh, and the key thing is to keep out of it, though. And he sees this happening. You heard him get off the gas, so he knew that that was not going to work. And that is experience there that paid off.
And a great save with involving Graham Rahal as he kept it off the wall. Let's check in with Vince Welch.
Ryan Hunter-Reay was part of that incident with A.J. Vizo and Robert Dornbos. Ryan, what was the view from your perspective?
Well, unfortunately, I mean, I got underneath him. I was fully alongside of him, and he just lost it. He looked like he was having a pretty hard time. I was hoping to just get by, but he lost it, got right into us. It's a bummer because we were having a lot of fun. I'm enjoying my time so far at AJ Foyt Racing, you know, ABC Supply Racing, and I actually had the best sessions in practice that I've had all year at turn left. You know, we were P13 in practice 2, going into qualifying. And it got rained out, but, you know, I'm enjoying my time here, and we had a pretty good car. We were just getting ready to move forward, so ended before we started.
Not much fun today, Marty.
Well, and it's been a tough streak for AJ Foyt Racing, and for the last 5 races, the 14 car has been involved in a crash, and we've got yellow again here at Iowa Speedway. And again, it is another crash, hard into the wall. That is the 18, and boy, what a tough break for Justin Wilson.
We'll have to see what happened here. This seems to be a single car accident.
We saw him yesterday in the first practice, and it was everything he could do just to hold on to that race car.
And we talked about it yesterday, Marty. He got into this car, and I saw him go out in the first couple of practices, and quite honestly, and I know he doesn't have much oval experience, I would have come down pit lane in that car, undone the belts, and got out of it and said, boys, there's something wrong with this thing. And when I spoke with him later, he said they did make changes to improve it. You see his team motor Dale Coyne looking on, but in this scenario, they made some suspension changes and some roll bar changes, and he thought they had something that was going to be drivable at in the last practice yesterday, and was hoping for a better day than what he's got right now.
Well, Justin is out of the car and appears to be A-OK as he walks over to the Delphi safety crew. So here we are, 35 laps into this 250-lap event. We've had 4 different leaders with 3 lead changes, but we're already halfway to our limit of 6 cautions that we've had the first 2 years. And as we get ready, it looks like pit lane will be open. And will there be takers? Yes, as here comes Ryan Briscoe, Thomas Schechter, and we will have triple pits, as we'll have Helio Castroneves, Thomas Schechter, and Marco Andretti. I should say Ryan Briscoe. Danica Patrick stayed out. She'll regain some of that track position. Remember, she stopped earlier.
And for all the drivers right now that just came in, had their service work done like Dixon and like Castroneves, they'll stay out and hope another yellow falls their way.
And the race off pit road as everybody, there they go, right off of that yellow line that you saw Jack at. And you can see that it was Marco Andretti picking up a spot over, so did Dan Welder. And look at Thomas Schechter, lost 3, so he was the big loser. And meanwhile, Danica Patrick takes over the race lead. Remember, she stopped a little bit earlier. Open, and then, okay. Yep. Got him.
today. And it's going to be interesting to see how she and Conway are able to run up front because the big Lions are right behind Frank Keating, Kanan, Dixon, and they are lined up. The interesting part, though, Bruce, is going to happen next time Dixon and Castro Nevis get next to each other because there may be a little rough feelings after what happened there earlier on, those two damaging each other's stripes.
Back here at Iowa, we want to talk, though, about the most prestigious championship in the game. Defending champ Padraig Harrington, Tiger Woods, and the world's best return to the birthplace of golf. It's the Open Championship on ABC, Saturday, July 18th at 9 a.m. Eastern. Final round coverage Sunday, July 19th at 8 a.m. Eastern. For more, just log on to ESPN.com. Let's check in quickly with Brienne Pettigo.
Thanks, Marty. I'm here with Justin Wilson. Justin, unfortunate end to the day. What happened out there?
Yeah, unfortunately I got my front roll bar stuck on full stiff, so the car was pointing way too much and just got loose in the middle of two and tried to save it, but I couldn't. So I just feel sorry for everyone at Z-Line Designs. You know, I think we were hoping for a good result today, but we'll move on to next weekend.
Thanks, Justin. Vince?
With Michael Andretti. Michael, you chose to bring Danik in for that splash of fuel during the first yellow. What's your strategy thinking there?
No, we had two flat tires. That's why we came in, because going through the debris. So, you know, that's just the way it worked out. So, no strategy.
So do you think that with that additional fuel, maybe it's some dumb luck there, you get an opportunity to finish on two more stops?
Who knows? You never know. We'll see how the yellows play out. So we'll see. I got to get back there.
There you go, Marty.
Well, she last pitted 35 laps ago. That's 30 more than everybody that just came in. Let's get quickly to our GoDaddy.com rules of racing for today's race.
Well, in this restart scenario that we're going to be coming up here, there is an acceleration zone. The drivers need to go to that acceleration zone at a constant speed to keep the officials happy. And then once the green comes out, you're able to pass as soon as that comes out. You don't have to wait to the start line like the initial start.
All right, let's reset it for you. It's Danica Patrick first, Mike Conway, Dario Franchitti, Tony Kanaan, and Scott Dixon and Elio Castroneves. That's your top six, and we're green at Iowa. Whoa, and look at the dive down on the left side by Dario Franchitti. He gets quickly around Conway.
And a nice move, and he wants to get that accomplished on these restarts. A great time to pass people, especially if they're not very quick on the restart. And for Danica Patrick, this is the first race that she has led so far this year, so she wants to get out in front and try to stretch that lead just a little bit.
Look at Elio Castroneves a little further back, and also Ryan Briscoe in that mix as well, as Elio had his hands full with the 9 car, and Briscoe got around the number 4 of Dan Weldon. We're on board with Weldon.
Let's listen to the throttle to see how happy he is with his race car. Running in some clean air right now to keep some downforce on the car. Letting Briscoe have the low side over that bump in turn 1 and 2, which is causing a lot of drivers a lot of problems so far this weekend, Jackaroo.
And Scott, that's the only place the National Guard Panther entry is having a bit of a challenge today. Dan Weldon likes the car that is underneath him until he goes down into this area here. He says you can feel the bump over the tunnel. He said it upsets the car. They've tried to address it, but they said they're just going to have to live with it for the rest of the day.
And take a look at the 2 going on in the battle right behind. That's Thomas Schechter getting around Hideki Muto, and he is quickly trying to close on the 6 of Ryan Briscoe. Man, Schechter's got a race car today.
I am so impressed by him all the time. There is moments where it seems like he turns his brain off and crashes cars, but everybody knows he is one of the fastest guys in these Indy cars, and he didn't have a great pit stop. They lost a few positions back then. Remember, he's with a smaller team, not one of they call the powerhouse teams, but Ryan Reinbold is very pleased to have him on board.
And he has moved back up to the 8th position. Take a look right now. That's the battle for 3rd and 4th. Mike Conway, the rookie, his best run going so far this season. He's had a lot of tough luck. And Tony Kanaan, who crashed here last year, has moved into 4th.
And talk about Mike Conway, another Dreyer and Reinbold car. I spoke with Robbie Buell yesterday, one of the owners of the Dreyer and Reinbold team. He says these two guys are here for the remainder of the season. They'll add a few races with Milko Duno, but he said we feel that now we have two constant drivers. We can build on our team package with our engineers.
Take a look at the battle heats up between Scott Dixon in the 9 car and the 4 of Dan Weldon. Weldon on the high side. This is for 6th. And Weldon may have him. Can he hold on?
Not even off the throttle, Marty, just on the gas all the way through the turn, and that's a little bit of bravery points for Dan Weldon.
So Weldon takes him on the high side and takes over the position, put him into 6th. His next target is Elio Castroneves in 5th. That's the view out back. Take a look at the Firestone telemetry.
This is what I love. Watch the throttle, the green outline there, 100% throttle. Now watch the G-forces just increase as soon as you turn into the turn. Looks like we have a problem with our G-force monitor on there, but you can see Scheckter back there right now starting to hunt all the way through when he's going on.
And watch the 23 of Thomas Scheckter. He is on that high line. He's loving it, and he's putting the move on our defending champion, Scott Dixon.
And a smaller team going around one of the powerhouse teams. That is amazing, Brian Pedigo.
Not be happier with his race car and with his team. He's constantly been on the radio saying, guys, and we're yellow.
And we've got a crash. Have to interrupt you, Brienne. It's Rafi Matos is one of the cars involved, and it looks like Mario Marias is the other. Marias is all the way down in turn number 3. And yes, it is Marias. Hard damage to the back end of his car. So 2 more cars falling victim to Iowa Speedway. And we are under our 4th caution of the day.
We'll have to see what happened here. In this scenario, you got 2 drivers that are very young, not a whole lot of experience on ovals. And now here's this scenario. The car just starts to come back around him with Matos and ends up in this scenario causing a diversion for Mario Marias, and he goes off and hits the wall.
Yeah,
you hate being taken out like that.
Yeah, Marias had no chance of saving it because once he got up in the marbles, you lose all traction. He slides into the wall, and his day is done.
You know, it's important because when you come here for the first time, Marty, you want to just gain experience about this racetrack, about putting in 250 laps around here so you can put that in the bank and come back the following year.
Okay, it looks like Rafi is getting out of the car under his own power. That is a great sign to see, and you already see Marias. He's just sitting on the edge as he has got to be one frustrated race car driver right now because this one is not of his doing. He is out of this race at lap 57 of 250.
And remember, this racetrack here also has the safer barrier around this circuit like all the racetracks do, so it helps absorb some of the impact for these drivers. No doubt he is sore, but he's probably more angered that he's out of the race.
So they'll make the mandatory trek to the medical center to get checked out, but it looks like both are going to be A-okay. And you can see the teams getting set up for the next round of pit stops here as we are, like I said, working lap number 57.
And works well for Danica Patrick because she was on that alternate strategy right there because she had to come in for those 2 flat tires from the first 3.
And it puts her right back on cycle with everybody else. Right behind is the 10 of Dario Franchitti as they make their way down pit lane. We've got our triple pit set up with Mike Conway, Danica Patrick, and Dario Franchitti. Jack?
And Conway will be the first to get service from his Dreyer and Reinbold Dad's Root Beer team. Franchitti will be it will actually be Franchitti and also Dario and Danica Patrick in the first out. It will be a drag race down to that end of that line. Remember, I told you about it, guys. I don't know who hit the line first.
It looks like it might be Dario. He took the inside approach. It shortened up the radius for him just enough. And he will come out ahead of Danica in this exchange. Now, that's just the race off pit road. You can see Franchitti picks up 1, Danica drops 1, but we can tell you Tony Kanaan stayed out, so he is our new race leader. So we're going to step aside for a bit. We'll be back after this message from our ABC stations.
The Iowa Corn Indy 250 on ABC. Brought to you by Iowa's corn growers, proudly feeding and fueling the world. And Firestone, the first name in Indy racing.
Well, this capacity crowd at Iowa Speedway has certainly not been disappointed with the action on the track. We've had 6 different leaders, 5 lead changes so far, and we're only working lap 61 of 250. We should tell you the top 6 stayed out after this last caution. That means it's Tony Kanaan, Dan Weldon, Thomas Scheckter, Ryan Briscoe, Hideki Muto, and Marco Andretti. That's your top 6. They stayed out. We'll explain more, but we'll go side by side now.
To food, we want it all. Great taste, great nutrition. Beef has plenty of zinc, iron, and protein. Go ahead and choose beef. The great tasting beef you love. It is food for you. Now based at the Iowa Speedway Gas, the Great American Stock Car Series, offering driving experiences and ride-alongs. Call 641-521-0887. July 4th, he said that we're so excited about
smoking here. Just FYI.
Let's quickly tell you what's coming up. NASCAR Now, 5 o'clock Eastern tomorrow on ESPN2. And then the Nationwide Series at New Hampshire presented by CiCi's Pizza, 2:30 next Saturday on ABC. The IndyCar Series at Richmond, 8 Eastern, Saturday on Versus. And then you've got NHRA as we're going back to Green Flag Racing here at Iowa. Remember, the top 6 cars stayed out. And Tony Kanaan, who has now led for the 3rd time this year, is pulling away, and he has been out the longest. It's been 45 laps since his last pit stop. Behind him now is Thomas Scheckter, Dan Weldon, and look at this, great side-by-side action. That's Hideki Muto in the 27, and right beside him is Ryan Briscoe, and Briscoe gets around him.
Amazing move. Restarts at great times to pass cars, as we always talk about, and now the track's starting to get some rubber down. You can see it on the course, and drivers are able to take advantage of that.
Look a little bit further back behind that pair of cars right there. That's Ed Carpenter and also Marco Andretti. And here comes Elio Castroneves trying to fight his way back into the mix after that early incident. On board with Dario Franchitti. There is Danica Patrick. As remember, she was one of those cars that did stop on board with her camera looking back towards Scott Dixon.
Car was working pretty good there with the 20 car also starting to look, and here's the Menards machine of Ed Carpenter. But Danica got through that turn real well, going over those bumps in turns 1 and 2. Very important when the tires start to wear.
Whoa, and look at the action further back. That was the 0-2 of Graham Rahal. Looked like he took a bit of a defensive maneuver on the 98.
And Jacques Lazier right now, this is his 2nd race of the season, just coming in with a 3G team.
So there is your race leader once again. Tony Kanaan with about a half a second lead over Thomas Scheckter, Vince.
Marty, Tony Kanaan pitted on lap 20. So now as we hit lap 70, it's been 50 laps. And here's something to keep in mind. When Kanaan pitted on lap 20, he only took fuel. He did not take tires. So it gives you an indication of how good these Firestone tires are, that he can run 70 laps and still be running at the pace he is. But keep in mind, certainly they're going to be looking for tires at that next stop, and if the yellow should fall, it'd be right in line for what Tony Kanaan would need. He led 71 laps here last year. He's run well at Iowa in the past, but both his races have ended on the hook.
Well, and he's actually stretched the lead while you were talking to over half a second. Take a look at the battle for second as we check in with Brienne Pettigo.
Caught up with Mario Moraes here at the medical center. Mario, it seemed like you had a car that was really working for you. You were moving well through traffic. What went wrong?
Well, the KB Racing team has been working really hard on the car. The car was great, it was a fast car. Unfortunately, I tried to avoid the contact with Matos, and he didn't give me so much space, and I finished hitting the wall.
Frustrating finish for Mario Moraes and KB Racing.
Yeah, it was, and you hate it when it's not your fault. It's bad enough when you create the problem, but when you get swept up in someone else's, it just makes it twice as bad.
And through that, you saw that Weldon got around Thomas Scheckter. And when I spoke with Dan Weldon yesterday with the Panther Racing team, they just spent some time testing over in Richmond, getting ready for that race next week. And he said the things they learned there, he thinks would actually help improve the car here. And in the end result, it looks like it's a lot stronger than the program they've had on short ovals before. Jackaroo?
And Scott, here is the first strategy move. John Barnes, who will call the shots for the National Guard entry, has already figured and extrapolated this race out. Get ready for this one. This is the first car that we have confirmed. Will Barnes on the right there will attempt to make this a two-stop race. Meanwhile, Ryan Briscoe continues to try and drive his way back to the front, now in the fourth position. Briscoe's had one of those uncharacteristic days where all he's trying to do right now, Scott Goodyear, is time when he approaches the Scheckter car. And what I mean by that, he doesn't want to close in him on the corner. He wants to close in on him exiting the corner, so that, as we can see, try to use the back stretch and the front stretch to affect the pass.
And Jack, that's a good point, because all the drivers are talking about the same thing. You spend so much time turning here. There's not long straightaways for a draft, and plus these cars are so even today, it really comes down to the driver to time the pass correctly. If you don't, you lose your momentum, and other drivers behind will pass.
Take a look at your Firestone telemetry for Ryan Briscoe.
Impressive, 100% throttle all the way around, means he's happy with the car. Let's take a ride through here. Coming up to some traffic. Smart move, Marty. Got off the gas, didn't push it, didn't want that dirty air to lose grip with the road, and changed up the gear because he went down a gear to take advantage of getting out of the turn once he slowed himself down.
And remember, Ryan Briscoe is your points leader coming into this race, as he is trying to win his first championship, as is Helio Castroneves. But right now, it's Tony Kanaan out in front of Dan Weldon. And Weldon, well, he's got more wins on tracks under a mile than anybody else. We'll talk more about it when we come back. Well, we're working lap number 89 of 250 here at the Iowa Corn IndyCar 250, and your race leader is Tony Kanaan by half a second over that man right there, Dan Weldon. And while we're talking about those two guys, that brings us to our GoDaddy, or our Boost Mobile mailbag, Ask the Analyst question. And who has the best chance to end the oval winning streak of Penske, Ganassi, and Andretti Green? And that's from John in New York.
Well, I think today there's probably going to be two drivers that I would select from what's going on. Obviously, Dan Weldon with the Panther Racing team, and Thomas Scheckter. Both he and his teammate right now are just doing a terrific job in those Dry and Reinbolt cars. So look for maybe a Dry and Reinbolt team or a Panther team to really surprise some people here in Iowa today.
Scheckter running third right now. He is 1.8 seconds behind the race leader, and right behind him you saw that was Ryan Briscoe. That is slower traffic of Jacques Lazier, the black car, the 98, that Dan Weldon has cleared. Weldon, he started the season 14th at St. Peter's. Here comes Scheckter around the 98. And then since then, he's had top 10s in 5 races since, including the second back at Indy. And right now, Weldon running second here.
And Weldon is strong, Scheckter is strong. It's impressive to see how these cars have improved over the last day here. And I would imagine that Scheckter is just delighted because he was a driver, Brian Pedigo, that did not have a ride at the beginning of this season.
This is turning out to be an incredible story for Thomas Scheckter and Dry and Reinbolt Racing. I spoke to Larry Curry yesterday and asked him what was going on with the addition of Thomas Scheckter and his team. He said after they'd had a few mechanical mishaps for both drivers in the last 2 races, Larry sat down with the crew, restructured them a bit, and said, listen, guys, your job is not fast. Your job is accurate. They wanted to make sure the best machines possible were sent out onto the racetrack. And so far, it looks like that's exactly what they've given Thomas Scheckter and Mike Conway. Scheckter keeps radioing into his team saying, guys, I can stay up in the front as long as you can keep me close.
Well, and you mentioned Mike Conway. You saw him side-by-side Conway get around Ed Carpenter. That was for 11th position. There are only 12 cars now on the lead lap.
And to go with something that Brian Pedigo brought up, with what Thomas Scheckter was saying, I can keep up the front as long as you keep me close. That means in the pits, because in their first pit stop, Marty, they lost 3 positions. And that's a team that maybe isn't as efficient in the pit lane to save the top 3.
On board again with Ryan Briscoe as he is trying very hard to reel in Thomas Scheckter. As we continue to watch this, I'm looking at the board right now. It's been 78 laps since that man right there, our race leader, Tony Kanaan, has pitted. And we were told it was about 75 to 80 would be the max that you could go.
Well, don't forget we've got some yellow caution laps in that number right now. So he's going to be looking at the fuel number on his dash. And the team will also be radioing to him and telling him what fuel number he needs to hit to try to get the mileage that they're trying to achieve. And then they'll also tell him that he's 10 laps out, 5 laps out before he has to come in for fuel. But what's impressive is that this is Tony Kanaan that had crashed here in the last couple of weeks. You think about the accidents that he had, the damage that he had, both at Indianapolis and at Milwaukee. It's a guy that really wants to have a positive weekend here after the situations that he's been involved in.
And his right leg is still got a brace on it. They have said the ribs are fine after that hard crash, but the leg is still a little bit sore. Let's move a little bit further back, all the way to 7th place, as there we see Marco Andretti. Now, he had moved his way towards the front of the field, but now he's sort of fallen back a bit and is trying to catch up to Dario Franchitti by about 2 seconds, though, is what he's fallen behind. Vince, what's going on with the 26?
Well, Marco Andretti, remember, crashed that car in practice yesterday, and as they put it together, they really weren't sure what they were going to have on their hands today. They thought it handled okay in the 2 laps it was able to run during the installation yesterday, the installation check, but they weren't quite sure. So the laps they've turned out here, the 100 plus that they've turned today, they've been very happy with the race car that Marco Andretti's got, riding along nicely in 7th place.
Yeah, what was it like when you had that same situation? You were going in a car you basically hadn't tested at all.
Well, you know, and you really expect the guys are going to put together a car today that is almost exact as what you really crashed the day before, but you never quite know, and there is some apprehension when you take the green flag, no doubt.
On board right now with Dan Weldon. We mentioned before our last break, he has more wins on tracks under a mile than anybody else in the IndyCar Series. He has 3. Sam Hornish has 2. Let's get more from Jack Rich.
Yeah, and it's hard to remember all the time because he changed teams and he's the defending champion of this race. Yesterday I asked as Tony Kanaan peels off, get ready to pit road. I know Vince Welch is going to be carrying that. So we'll get back to that story a little bit later. Vince, he's coming to you.
Tony Kanaan in the 711 Dallara. His team had been working on getting a rear grip that would not upset the front end of the car. That was their goal in practice. Tony told me before the race today, I think we've got it, and the team has indeed hit upon it. They will not make any changes to the race car. This is the first set of new tires it's put on, and this is lap 107, a clean stop for Tony Kanaan.
And he went a total of 86 laps, and as you pointed out, some of those were under caution. Take a look at Weldon in the 4 car with traffic, and look at what it has allowed Thomas Scheckter to do, close up even tighter. And it's Ryan Briscoe also here, and here comes Briscoe looking underneath Scheckter for a second, and he's got him.
Oh, and Scheckter tried to close the door just a little bit because he lost the momentum, but Schecter's going right back after it.
And Briscoe takes the high line away.
Well, he just moves up the road to make sure he takes enough air off the car of Thomas Scheckter so he can't come back and try to retaliate. Now for Thomas, this is where he's seen the red mist every once in a while. He turns around and does some weird things. He needs to be settled down, realize he's not even halfway through the race, and just collect his composure and say, it's only one position, but I've got a long time to go here.
Well, and there's a lot more lap traffic in front of him. You can see right there, there's Graham Rahal right ahead of our race leader. And then even further up, no, we have caution. And Tony Kanaan has crashed for the 3rd year in a row here at Iowa. Just after making his pit stop.
Now remember, whatever it is, he did not sound very happy in the car, obviously.
Our 5th caution here on lap 110. Not even to halfway. There is the team. We've not heard any communication on the radio with Tony. And remember, he just came off that huge crash. We had mentioned the fact he is still wearing the brace on the right leg. It is very sore.
A double hit at Indianapolis when something broke on the car going down the backstretch at top speed, went into the wall, then lost all brakes. You can see Tony now starting to move and get out of the car. Certainly one of the toughest and most fit competitors in this series today. But after that first hit that he had at Indianapolis, he lost the brakes in the car and went in and hit the turn 3 wall at high speed again.
Wait, it stepped out.
Well, the car has actually come around. We don't know why the car has come around. You can see all the parts of the car. I see a half shaft going through the air right there. But remember, there's 2 things. He just came out of the pit lane, tires were cold, and plus he's going over that bump that everybody's having a problem with over the tunnel, right where the cars are right now, and into turn 2 where the pace car is leading them, and that is exactly where he started to lose it and head off towards the safer barrier.
Well, it'll be his 3rd DNF of the year, his 2nd crash, and you talked about the one that he had at Indianapolis. And it has not been the kind of season that Tony Kanaan had dreamt about, as everyone now is laid out for another round of pit stops. And it comes at an opportune time for Dan Weldon and everybody in the top 5, because it has been 76 laps since they last pitted. So this is key for all of them as they come down pit lane. And let's set up our Iowa Corn triple pits as Jackaroo, they're coming your way.
Well, for Dan Weldon, it's not what he wanted, because he wanted to do this, make it a 2-stop race. He's in the middle. Thomas Scheckter will make an exchange. Now for Ryan Briscoe, they are going to make an air pressure adjustment, but watch Weldon in the middle of your screen. He is making a ring adjustment coming up on the wing. All 3 and the rest of the brigade are away, heading back that 1/10 of a mile before they get to the end of the pit speed limit line.
And here's our Iowa Corn race off pit road, and take a look. Ryan Briscoe picked up 1, but Dario Franchitti, the big winner, with 3. And Dan Weldon's team again, he drops 2, he lost 3.
Well, and also Weldon is a bit further down the pit lane. He's actually not as close down towards the far end as the Penske team and Target team, so sometimes that has a bit of a hindrance on getting out.
It happened to Scheckter when he lost 3. It's happened to Weldon now when he lost 2. We'll be back after this message from our ABC stations.
Several of the drivers here today, and especially for Tony Kanaan in this last accident here at the Iowa Speedway. The Kellogg Company, proud to be the sponsor of Friday night's Kellogg's Clash Midget Series event and the Mill Rally Talent Search at the Iowa Speedway. And for the excitement, Tony the Tiger was with us all weekend. That was fun for a lot of the kids. Nationwide Insurance Special Investigations Unit, in conjunction with the Iowa State Patrol, National Insurance Crime Bureau, and Safe Line Auto Glass sponsoring today's Vehicle Theft Awareness and Safety Day at the Iowa Speedway. Please visit their 10 locations. Remember, Life Company USA, so nationwide is on your side. Hey, while you're at the race today, fans, be sure to get your official Iowa Speedway merchandise from one of 6 locations. 2 souvenir tents located at either side of the main luxury suite tower.
The Iowa Corn Indy 250 on ABC. Brought to you by Iowa's Corn Growers, proudly feeding and fueling the world. Prescription Flomax. And GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with a .com name for less than $1 a month.
Back here under our 5th caution at Iowa Speedway, we're working lap 117 of 250. We have 11 cars on the lead lap right now, and a total of 7 cars are out of this event. And let's go back and show you the 7th car to come out of this event, the 11 car of Tony Kanaan.
You all right? Every time, I can't get a break.
Vince, you've caught up with him?
Well, the good news is Tony Kanaan walks out under his own power. The bad news, you're out of the medical center instead of in the race car. What happened, Tony?
I don't know, Vince. I just, it stepped out of me. I mean, I think this corner has been a problem, especially for myself, the last 3 years. And I think it was a combination of a cold tire. And I feel bad for the 7-Eleven guys. I mean, we've been struggling with so many crashes lately that this one's probably was my fault. The only thing that I think it's good about it is we crash on the left side now. I mean, my right side is all really sore, so it's been a difficult year, but you know, we got to move on.
Tony Kanaan trying to find the silver lining in another unfortunate day. That's 3 DNFs in the last 4 races for TK.
Yeah, it has not been all that good this season, as we mentioned a little bit earlier. There's your top 5 right now, as we will be back. We're going to go side by side here at Iowa.
Thank you very much for your
finished second here in Iowa 1 year ago behind Dan Weldon. And that's his best career.
It's the most prestigious championship in the game. Defending champ Padraig Harrington, Tiger Woods, and the world's best return to the birthplace of golf. The Open Championship on ABC. It's Saturday, July 18th at 9 a.m. Eastern, and final round coverage Sunday, July 19th at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. For more, just log on to ESPN.com. Let's reset it for you as we have a total of 11 cars on the lead lap. 7 have been retired by crashes. It is Ryan Briscoe in front of Dario Franchitti, Dan Weldon, Hideki Muto, and Thomas Scheckter. And no start. They are waving off the start. So obviously, Brian Barnhart, president of competition, did not like what he saw.
Well, they say that yellows breed yellows, Jack Arute. Maybe we're headed for another one.
Well, what's most important, though, for your leader, Ryan Briscoe, knows he's got to get the jump on the guy directly behind him, Franchitti. But this man, Roger Penske, has been coaching his protege, Briscoe, about his pit stops, making them in nice and tight. He just told him, we've got 50 laps, and then we're only going to make one last stop. He said, take care of those Firestone tires in the first 50 laps. We're back to green, guys.
Yes, we are, Jack.
And Briscoe made no mistake on that one, Marty. He was on the gas even before the go zone down there in turn 3. But right now, Dario Franchitti looks like he's got a pretty strong car.
Take a look at Hideki Muto getting around Dan Weldon. So move Muto up to third. Take a look at the battle for the lead, and here we go. Franchitti on the low side, and he gets around Ryan Briscoe.
Even though Briscoe got the jump on the start, we just saw that Franchitti just was able to close that gap in a real hurry. So maybe some changes in this last pit stop to make the car a little bit better.
All right, if you're just tuning in, we welcome you to the Iowa Corn Indy 250. We're just past halfway. We have had a total of 7 different leaders and 8 lead changes. Right now it is Dario Franchitti in front of Ryan Briscoe, Hideki Muto, Dan Weldon, and Thomas Scheckter in the top 5. And then Elio Castroneves and Danica Patrick are duking it out for 6th position. And there they are on the track.
And Danica Patrick right now, a lot has been said about her. Will she stay in IndyCar? Will she move over to NASCAR next year? She's in the final year of her contract with Andretti Green Racing. She's been mum on everything right now, but she certainly has a lot of pressure on her to perform and also make a decision, Vince Welsh.
Well, Danica Patrick and her team have made very few changes to their race car. They did give her a half a turn of front wing in the very first stop, but otherwise the car is handling pretty smoothly for Danica, and she's just 32 points out of the championship lead coming into this race. That's the closest she's ever been to the front of the pack in the championship through 6 races. Shows her progression as a race car driver in her 5th season of the IndyCar Series. Jack Arute.
And the guy she is chasing down directly in front of Elio Castroneves, involved in that early race altercation, had to change the front nose. Here's what they're going to do now, Scott Goodyear. Tim Cindric and Elio have decided they're going to change the way they approach this racetrack. They're going to try and set a fuel mark. They discussed how best to do it. Elio said, I can hit the mark you need by running flat out in 3 and 4 and lifting a little bit in 1. So that's the way Elio Castroneves hopes that he'll be able to work his way back up to the front, where Dario Franchitti leads his teammate Ryan Briscoe. No changes on the last stop for Franchitti. For Briscoe, however, right now, I think the reason why he has let Franchitti go away, he is going to try for the first 50 laps of this stint to save those tires. That, to me, is a signal, guys, that maybe they're going to try and do a gas and go if it has to be under green for their final stop. We'll have to wait and see.
Take a look right now at the man who finished second. Well, it was a brief look at Hideki Muto. He finished second here last year, and right now he is running a very strong 3rd place. As there he is, a good shot of the Japanese driver. And Vince, you've got more?
Well, as you said, Marty, he ran second here to Dan Weldon a year ago, so it should be no surprise that he's running up at the front again this year. The head of Formula Dream, his top sponsor, is here at Iowa Speedway this week. And, you know, when the head of the top sponsor shows up, gives it a little bit of extra motivation as well in a contract year, does it not, Scott Goodyear?
Well, this is the time of year that all drivers are talking to their teams about what they're going to do next year. So you want to have a strong result. So when you sit down on Monday to talk about next year, you got something to hold back in your cards.
Drop back one more spot, and you hook up with Dan Weldon in number 4 right there in front of the 23 of Thomas Scheckter. Two of the guys that would like to snap that 41 race streak of wins by the top 3 teams of Team Penske, Ganassi, and also AGR. But boy, we got to go a little bit further back to find Marco Andretti. He has dropped all the way back now to 11th place, Vince. What's going on?
I just spoke with Kyle Moyer a moment ago, who handles the strategy and communication for Marco, and he says he's having trouble getting up to speed as you see the battle for the lead as Ryan Briscoe is challenging the TomTom car of Dario Franchitti. Once Andretti gets up to speed, he feels the car is much better, but it's just tough getting there as Briscoe and Franchitti battle.
Boy, this has been some great wheel-to-wheel racing today at Iowa, and Briscoe clears him on the high side, so now we have a total of 9 lead changes between 7 different drivers. So Ryan Briscoe now has led in 6 of the 7 races this year. There's your top 5. We still have a long way to go before this one's decided. Back here at the Iowa Speedway, a 7/8 mile oval that has seen a lot of action with 7 different leaders. In fact, let's show you our Firestone lap leaders. And it's ironic, Tony Kanaan is one of 7 cars behind the wall after crashing. He has led the most laps so far, but Ryan Briscoe is out in front right now, is clicking them off rapidly. Danica Patrick has led for the first time this year with 22, and you see right on down to Scott Dixon with only 1 lap led. In fact, Dixon is all the way back in 8th position, Scott, and that's probably the biggest surprise to me in this race.
Well, it may be a surprise. Maybe there's some strategy going off there, but remember, you only want to lead 1 lap, and that's the last one, so it's far from over at this point in time.
Well, let's check in on the 9 car. There he is for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. Got 2 others in front of him. That's Mike Conway right behind him, and Conway is running in 9th position, so he's got pressure all the way around. That's lap traffic in the 98 of Jacques Lazier. And then that's Danica Patrick. Vince, you've got more?
Well, the Danica Patrick machine has been has been about as good as she could ask for during the course of this day today. As we mentioned earlier, just the one little chassis adjustment on the front wing. And of course, the way her weekend began with striking her left rear tire changer, Lenny Gauci. We should also report that Craig McCain, the left rear tire changer who's replaced Gauci today, has been spot on in the pits. So it's been a good day for Danica Patrick as she runs comfortably in the top 10, 7th currently.
Ready.
All right, thanks, Vince. As you can see, Danica's opened up a little more space. I've just gotten word that one of 2 Dancing with the Stars champions that is here is caught up with Brian Pettigo, and I know it can't be Elliot because he's out on the track, so it's got to be Shawn Johnson. How about it, Brie?
That's right, Marty. Native to Iowa, Shawn Johnson, current champion of Dancing with the Stars, is here with us. Shawn, this is your first IndyCar race. What do you think so far?
It's been a lot of fun. It's definitely louder than I thought it'd be, but it's a great experience, and I don't know, I loved every second of it.
Now, what's next for you? You were very successful your first try at dancing. What'll be next for Shawn Johnson?
I have no idea. I'm taking it one day at a time and trying to figure out what I want to do, but right now it's just, traveling and having a good time.
Any decisions yet about the next Olympics in London?
Not yet. I'm getting back into shape and starting to train again, so we'll see.
Who knew? 2 champions of Dancing with the Stars here at an IndyCar race. Shawn Johnson, everybody.
All right, thank you. And it was nice to meet her. She is so tiny. I can't get over how short she is and how, agile she is as well. Great champion in 2 different venues. All right, as you saw the trophy being raised there. Let's set it for you again. Ryan Briscoe, Dario Franchitti, Hideki Muto. That is your top 3 right now. And if you were with us at the pre-race, Briscoe is about to take over the laps led from Tony Kanaan, who's behind the wall. And he's done that a couple of times where he's led the most laps but not won the race this year. And let's check in once again with Scott Dixon, because we mentioned that it was a bit of a surprise that he is all the way back in an 8th place. Let's get an update from pit lane.
Marty, what they're trying to do with that car is he's soldiering on. When he was involved in that hit early on with Helio Castroneves, it knocked the rear end out of the car just a little bit. Down through the corners, he has been reporting to his team that it just doesn't feel the same as previously. And Scott, I think when you get a car like that that's a little wicked in the corners, and the corners are as big as they are here in Iowa, well, you kind of just don't push it to the outside of the razor's edge, do you?
Well, certainly, and that's a veteran and the champion with the experience that's actually making that decision. Some other drivers would just go ahead and try and gas it and maybe have the car step out from them and try and catch it. But he knows he's after a points championship, and this is the smartest thing to do. If you have a 5th place car today or an 8th place car today, that's where you need to make it finish.
Well, and a great report, Jack, because it only looked like he had a cut tire, and we didn't know that the damage was much more severe. So great report from pit lane. And the reason why Scott Dixon isn't up. We're going to be back after this message from our ABC stations as Ryan Briscoe is out in front of Dario.
The Iowa Corn Indy 250 on ABC. Brought to you by Iowa's corn growers, proudly feeding and fueling the world. And the Boost Mobile Monthly Unlimited Plan.
We're here at Iowa Speedway, but we want to talk about Major League Baseball because it's going to continue on ESPN and ESPN2 with 2 nights of action. First, at 8 Eastern, we've got Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell on ESPN as Juan Pierre and the National League West leading Dodgers take on Vlad Guerrero and the Angels. Then catch Monday Night Baseball on ESPN2 at 7 Eastern. Albert Pujols and the Cards face David Wright and the Mets. ESPN News will be shown in St. Louis and the New York markets. Both games are part of the AL-NL Showdown presented by State Farm. And Vince, Marco Andretti's in the pits.
You saw Jason Weatherford there changing the right front tire and also making a wing change as the 2 front tire changers made that wing adjustment to try to help Marco Andretti get back toward the front of the pack. Remember, he was running up comfortably in the top 10. Now he's a lap down, running 11th before that pit stop.
Well, and he's now 2 laps down as a result of a green flag pit stop. And we see a big gap on the race lead by 1.2 seconds. Or take a look a little bit earlier also what happened while we were in break.
Well, here's Dixon just trying to go around Marco Andretti, and then Conway in the 24 machine comes down, dives on the inside, surprises Dixon because his spotter's telling him that Conway's underneath, and Marco Andretti gets the short end of that because he gets moved up the racetrack. Watch it. Just makes the maneuver, keeps the car under control, and then Marco's going, today's not my day. And I saw in that pit stop that Vince reported on that Marco had a lot of front wing taken out of the car, so the car was probably very positive for him going around the racetrack here today.
Well, we have 10 cars on the lead lap right now as Ed Carpenter is the last car on the lead lap. Then it's Graham Rahal and Marco Andretti 11th and 12th. Those 2 are both 3 laps down. And then Jacques Lazier is 6 laps down. We can tell you that Robert Dornbos has come back out on the track. He's in pit lane right now. He is 162 laps behind. You're saying, why would he want to do that? Well, he's looking for Rookie of the Year points.
And if he can just soldier on and gain some positions here, collect some points, it might come down to just a few points at the end of the season for that prestigious award.
And this is the last car on the lead lap. You're riding on board with Ed Carpenter, and there goes your race leader, Ryan Briscoe. So now we only have 9 cars on the lead lap. And Marco is about to go 4 laps down.
When your car is working well, you feel all in one with the race car, and right now that's what Briscoe is feeling. He's on the gas all the way into the entrance, into the mid portion of the turn, and he carries the speed out if you break this turn down into 3 phases. And right now he just looks at the car ahead of him like Marco Andretti, sees what Marco's car is doing and tries to pick a safe place to pass because he knows Marco is struggling with his race car today.
Well, we have 72 laps remaining. It has been 65 laps since the lead cars have made their pit stops. What that means is that they can do it on 1 more stop. Let's get an update from Jack Arudis. Hey, boy, the leader just got chopped, Jack.
Well, yeah, but you see what Briscoe's doing, guys. That's what I was telling you before. He has spent a lot of time with Rick Mears, who was a master at race traffic. And what they've discussed is timing their moves. And Briscoe is approaching this race as every corner is different. Every lap is different. And what he's been trying to do with the help of Mears and with Roger Penske is find out where his car is better. We've been talking about this all afternoon, and so is Roger Penske to his driver. They know it's going to be tough to get by Marco, but they also don't want to abuse those tires because, as I said to you, I think when this team pits, they're going to go with fuel only and leave these Firestone Firehawks on. That would be pretty nifty.
All right, thanks for the update there, Jack. Now, we also saw a little bit about Danica Patrick. She has dropped a few positions. She is back in 9th position. Vince?
Danica Patrick just radioed into Michael Andretti and said the car is feeling bad, and he said, hang in there, hang in there. They're not wanting to stop for another 20 laps, so we'll see what she can do with it as she hangs in there for 20 more.
Well, there's 68 to go. By our calculation, you can make it on 1 more stop, so why would you stay out?
Well, I think the opportunity for them right now is to run into a point where you can put new tires on, maybe keep the advantage of those new tires a little bit closer to the end of the race if she's having struggling with her car. Possibility.
All right, well, there's your top 5. Who is going to win this race? Stay with us. Find out. Take a look at the top 5 and also the fact that Danica Patrick, the last car on the lead lap, is about to go a lap down as Ryan Briscoe is closing in on her quickly. And right behind Briscoe is the 10 car of Dario Franchitti.
And what Franchitti's looking for right now is an opportunity to get past Briscoe with the traffic, which is Danica up ahead. So he's trying to inch closer if he can to see if Briscoe gets held up. He'll just take advantage.
We have word that Dan Weldon, 4th place, will be pitting in the next few laps, and it will be interesting to see how soon everyone else follows. It has been 79 laps since the lead group has last pitted, on board with Danica.
And Danica certainly knows by looking in her mirrors and also radio communication from her pits that the leader is coming from behind, and she's going to try as hard as she can to push as hard as it can with a car she's not happy with to try to stay on the lead lap.
Well, one thing we can tell you is Ryan Briscoe has clinched the laps led, the total. And look, it looks like it is. It's Briscoe pulling off right behind Dan Weldon. Vince? Jack?
So Dan Weldon will pull on the pit road. He will get the service first. He'll try to get in and out before Ryan Briscoe can get to his pit stall. They're going to change 4 tires. Now for Ryan Briscoe, we're going to watch carefully. He had the lead until right now. Away, and Briscoe comes in. Will they change tires or not? Yes, they're going to change tires. They need the fuel. They're able to get the tires changed before the fuel. They had to stay a little longer to pack it. He's off and away, guys. Green flag stops are so much fun.
Yes, they are, and it's not been a lot of them happening this year. There is Thomas Schechter also coming out with Mike Conway behind him. And those two were also on the lead lap. Right now, Dario Franchitti is making his way down pit lane, so he surrenders the race lead. And Jack, they're coming your way.
Dario Franchitti, he's been at the front, but not leading for most of the afternoon. Now is the chance for the team, led by Ricky Davis, to go to work. Will they be able to help him? They go to work, and all of a sudden, Franchitti is off and away, and look who's in. Dancing with the Stars, Helio Castroneves, the winner at Texas, Helio Castroneves, trying to get for his team the first win for Team Penske. Tim Cindric and company, Rick Reineman, they move him out, and he is off and away. Meanwhile, here comes Scott Dixon. Dixon has had the slight rear end problem, but he has soldiered on. Ricky Davis is changing the outside tire on this car. He is one of the oldest members of the team, and they make it very, very quickly. And now it's time for DP to make her final stop of the night with Vince Welch.
You see Danica Patrick making her way to the pit lane. Her crew reminding her you've got a wide open lane, so hit your marks. Let's make this stop a quick one. And she was right on her marks indeed. She was complaining of understeer. Actually wanted to come in a few laps earlier, but the crew kept her out a little bit longer. We'll see if this change makes a difference for her in the final laps. Lap 199.
All right, so a lot of green flag pit stop action, and as they cycle through, it is Dario Franchitti that ends up with the race lead over Ryan Briscoe by 1.1 seconds. So tip of the hat to the 10 crew.
Great job, but now you know you have no longer any pit work to have done on the race car. It's from here to the end, so save your tires if you have to. Work with your adjusters inside the car to make the car as nice as possible, and don't mess up on the racetrack. We've seen a lot of aggressive driving here today, Marty.
Well, there is your top 5. Mike Conway is desperately trying to stay on the lead lap. Stay with us. You're riding on board with our race leader, Dario Franchitti, as he's got a 1.1-second lead. He is one of 7 different leaders, and there's our Firestone lap leaders. Ryan Briscoe's clinched the bonus point for leading the most laps. There's only 39 left remaining. Tony Kanaan is out of the race after crashing. And you can see right on down through the list. Ryan Briscoe, of course, the only car in the series to complete every single lap so far run this season. Do you ever think you would ever say that about Ryan?
Well, certainly not about Ryan. Remember, he was a guy that everybody gave up on. It was Roger Penske that brought him into his endurance team fold, let him spend a year getting seasoned there, and then brought him over to the IndyCar program. But he spent stints with Dreyer and Reinbold, and also Ganassi. And everybody thought after that crash in Chicago that Ryan was done in IndyCars, but proving them wrong.
Take a look as that is the last car on the lead lap, the 23 of Thomas Scheckter. He is in 7th position, about to go a lap down, and does. So now only 6 cars on the lead lap. Elio Castroneves is the next target for Dario Franchitti. Take a look at the log jam here as you've got the number 4 of Dan Weldon and Scott Dixon. That is a battle for 4th, and they've got Graham Rahal cleared and Ed Carpenter in front.
Now, Dixon knew he would not make that move, but he wanted to stick his nose on the inside of Dan Weldon in the National Guard car just to let him know that he was there and looking. And I think if you can run out and clean traffic, I'm sure that Weldon's quicker, because remember, Dixon's driving a car that has been injured from that first lap accident. But he's taking advantage of traffic, trying to make the move that time.
So he's going to try and clear Carpenter. Can't get it done down the back straightaway. On board with Ed. Carpenter is 1 lap down in 10th position.
And difficult to pass here when the car is slower in front of you because you spend so much time turning. We talked about getting a great timing on the driver in front to get it done. And here's where you need the car to be able to put your foot on the gas. Weldon has to take his foot off the gas, a little understeer on the car. He'll take a high approach here as you watch the Firestone telemetry. You can see his throttle. Back on the gas, got to get the timing done. And maybe now's the opportunity as Carpenter himself is turning around, having problems with traffic in front. Now get a draft, dive on the inside, surprise him, and we're going to go on the outside. I wouldn't, but he'll try it.
A little bit longer way around and can't get it done. While all this action is still going on, let's go back up to Dario Franchitti with a 1.2-second lead over Ryan Briscoe. And then it is a 5-second margin back to 3rd place, Hideki Muto. And Hideki may want to run every race here at Iowa, Vince.
Well, Kim Green, who handles the radio and the strategy with Hideki Muto. There you see Kim on the right-hand side. He's been a big cheerleader for Hideki today, encouraging him, telling him what a great job he's done. But the one thing he's been imploring Hideki to do, and that's to get through the traffic as fast as he can. He knows that he's running out of laps. The problem is Hideki's car not as comfortable as it was earlier in the race as he's battling some understeer. Kim Green telling him to work the bars from inside the cockpit. They're running out of laps, and they've got to make their move now.
All right, and Hideki had a 2nd place run here last year, a career best, and he's running 3rd right now. We have got 28 laps to go. The top 5 are still up for grabs, and this is our last break. We'll take it to the checkers. Back here at the Iowa Speedway, where you saw in side-by-side that we now have only 5 cars on the lead lap because Elio Castroneves has just been passed by our race leader. We have 20 laps to go with Dario Franchitti ahead of Ryan Briscoe by a second, Hideki Muto third, Dan Weldon fourth, and Scott Dixon fifth. It is the most prestigious championship of the game. Defending champ Padraig Harrington, Tiger Woods, and the world's best return to the birthplace of golf. It's the Open Championship on ABC, Saturday, July 18th at 9 a.m. Eastern, and final round coverage Sunday, July 19th at 8 a.m. Eastern. So as we take a look at the 42,000 that are here packing the Iowa Speedway, it is a 7/8 mile oval, a very unique racetrack. If you want to find out how unique, just talk to Dario Franchitti, our race leader.
I know Rusty loved Bristol, and it does remind me a little bit on Bristol with those high banks and stuff. It gives me some kind of idea what would happen if you took an Indy car to Bristol and how quick it would be. This is amazing, 7/8 of a mile, and the speeds are insane. So I think either somebody with a really crazy sense of humor designed it or a driver.
Well, Dario Franchitti may like to poke a little fun at Rusty Wallace, one of our ESPN compatriots, but he's been taking a lot of grief as he goes to the inside of the number 20 car and Ed Carpenter, because since he displayed this livery at Texas, he was reminded by Scott Dixon and the crew that every time the car to Chip Ganassi has run a different colored car, they have been undefeated. That was until they went to Texas and Franchitti failed to best Elio Castroneves. They have reminded him for the 14 days since then that he failed to fulfill what the promise was. He said he was going to turn things around here at Iowa, and hopefully, as he told me, he has 52 different driver uniforms. Hopefully, he says he'll have 53 to put in his closet. Meanwhile, in the back, Scheckter and the dad's root beer car continue to go at it, guys.
Yeah, and even though they're a lap down, Jack, well, the reason we're focusing on this is because it's one of the best battles we have on the racetrack with only 13 laps to go. Scheckter in the 23 and his teammate in the 24, Mike Conway, that is for position 7th and 8th.
And it's been very impressive. They've been running very strong here this weekend. We talked earlier about their new focus with these 2 drivers to the end of the year with the Dreyer and Reinbold team. And certainly Thomas Scheckter brings a lot of experience there, but I've been very impressed with Mike Conway, who's only 25 years old and from Bromley, Kent, England. Not a lot of oval experience and has done a great job. And just looking on his resume, very impressed to see that he won the Macau Grand Prix back in 2006, which is a very prestigious road course race for all up-and-coming drivers.
Well, his only lead lap finish was at the Indianapolis 500, where he had his best career finish, 18th. That's how hard it's been. And take a look at that. Scott Dixon has just been put a lap down by his teammate, so you know that that wounded car, the number 9 car, is definitely a handful for Scott Dixon. When was the last time we saw him getting lapped? And we can also tell you that Marco Andretti has taken his car to pit lane as well, I believe. It was a splash and go, so he needed some fuel, and he's back out.
And Dixon, that altercation that he had with Elio Castroneves, both of them, as we mentioned, lucky not to go into the wall. So I'm sure they'll have some words with each other afterwards, and Dixon will not be very happy with Castroneves.
Well, and it hurts Scott the most in the points because he drops from 2nd to 3rd based on the way it would end right now. Elio would stay in 4th position and actually stay in that same spot where he came into this race. There is Ashley Judd on the right-hand side of your screen, hoping her husband can complete 7 more laps and pick up his 2nd win of the 2009 campaign. Remember, it was Dario who won the inaugural running here just 3 seasons ago. Did not race here because he was running NASCAR last year, and here he is back, so he could be 2 for 2. Take a little bit drop further back. You pick up 2nd place, Ryan Briscoe. He is now 3.5 seconds behind. So unless something happens, this is Dario's day. And remember the line that Briscoe gave us in jest yesterday? I'll probably lead the most laps and finish 2nd. Well, guess what? He's led the most laps and he's running 2nd.
And I don't think his car responded after that last stop. It seemed like his car had some understeer. The front wasn't responding for him. And Hideki Muto finishing 3rd. You mentioned he finished 2nd here last year, and that's the best finish here for Andretti Green Racing this weekend. So great hats off to him. He's drove a very smart, mature race.
And only 1 more car on the lead lap, although it may not be that way for long because Dan Weldon is the last car on the lead lap in 4th place, and closing on him quickly is the number 10 of Dario Franchitti. There will be 3 laps to go this time by, and that car right in front of him is the number 4 of Dan Weldon. So there's Weldon, 4th place, and here's your race leader. Now, if I told you we were going to have only maybe 3 cars on the lead lap by the time this baby's over, but we would have 12 lead changes with 7 different leaders, what would you think?
It's been a very crazy race. I mean, drivers were very aggressive right from the very beginning, especially on a very green racetrack with no rubber. I mean, they certainly know that the track doesn't have any grip, but seems like a few of them turned off their brains at the very beginning.
Well, Ashley knows that there is 1 lap remaining, and 7/8 of a mile separates Dario Franchitti from his 2nd win this year and his 1st on the ovals. Down the back straightaway, into turns 3 and 4, looking for his 10th career win as he heads for the stripe. It's Dario Franchitti winning here at Iowa, with 2nd place going to Ryan Briscoe.
Nice job today, partner. Thanks, guys. Good today, guys. Awesome. Really, great job, everybody. Great job today, man. Fantastic, boys. Awesome. Awesome, everybody. Well done, guys. I'd like to do burnover now. We can use this one next week.
Let's check in with Brianne Pettigo.
Well, guys, I'm here with Ashley Judd, obviously ecstatic that your husband has another win. Is it still as exciting as it was the first time you saw him win a race?
Absolutely, because so many things can happen. And as everyone knows, I'm a college basketball fan. It's never over till it's over. I mean, I was hearing the countdown and things were looking good. They were nice and strung out. The car's been fabulous. He asked for no changes. He managed the tires beautifully. The stops were great. All looking really good, but it's not over till it's over. So I'm excited and relieved.
Now, Dario always seems to keep his wits about him in the race car, and you've even said that he races like a gentleman. What did you mean by that?
I think that he has a fundamental courtesy and respect for his other drivers. And I remember early on when I was just getting to know him and racing, there'd be some beef on the track, you know, and someone hadn't behaved in a sportsmanlike way. And I saw that even as a young man, he was a bit of an elder statesman, and the other drivers would come to him looking for counsel, sometimes even bearing gifts. It was really quite special to see, and it certainly endeared me to him. And he has the guy who interviewed him at the local rock station was saying that too. He's just a very personable and lovely man, and I absolutely mean that in the best possible way.
Well, we'll let you get to victory lane to congratulate him.
Happy Father's Day to all the dads, and it's also the solstice, so it's a cool day.
Guys, Dario Franchitti, the first repeat winner here at Iowa Speedway.
And he makes his way towards the Izod victory lane, and the celebration will begin. She mentioned the solstice, that of course being the longest day of the year, and that is today. So she is also a huge Kentucky basketball fan. She knows more stats than anybody. And here he comes into Izod victory lane, and already pumping the fist as he picks up that 10th career win and now puts himself into 2nd place in the championship chase, just 3 points behind Ryan Briscoe. He moves ahead of his Target Chip Ganassi Racing teammate, Scott Dixon. Dixon drops to 3rd, 15 markers behind. 4th place is Helio Castroneves, 29 back, and Danica Patrick stays 5th, but she is now 52 points behind. The celebration begins, and Vince will send it your way.
As Dario Franchitti removes his helmet and the green Tom Tom car sits in victory lane, and you know the tagline for Tom Tom is "Go confidently." And Dario Franchitti went confidently today. You told me before the race that this is a uniquely challenging track, yet you've run it twice and you've won it both times. What is it about this track that suits you?
Well, we worked hard on a certain part of the setup. The car changes a lot throughout the run, so the Target guys and I, we did a couple of little tweaks there, and the pit stops were awesome. It's a big track position race, and that's awesome. I'm completely dizzy right now. But yeah, it feels great, man. It's unusual. My dad's not here today. My dad's back in Scotland. One of the only races he's missed, I think. So happy Father's Day, Dad. This one's for you.
Dario, you guys have really been strong on the ovals, particularly in these last 3 races. Have you come upon something that has allowed you to click a little smoother? What seems to be the key to the success you've had lately?
You know, the deal is, Vince, when you show up with the target guys, you're expected to win. They give you the equipment to win. Sometimes we miss it a little bit. We're competing against the Penske, AGR guys, and a lot of other great teams. So it's tough, but these guys give us the stuff to do it, whether we're in TomTom colors or any other sponsors. We're here to do a job, and I say today they gave me the tools to do it, and I made the right choices, and here we are.
I know the guys gave you a little bit of a hard time for not winning in the TomTom colors the first time around, but you've come back and taken care of business. So do you feel like you're square?
I think we're square now. Yeah, the big thing was the Energizer car because it had won every time out. We didn't win in Texas, so hopefully they'll forgive me, and we'll go do some celebrating tonight.
He did indeed. Won at Long Beach. He gets the oval victory here today at Iowa. Marty?
And his 10th IndyCar Series win, as we point out, his 20th in all of open wheel racing. And here it is, the best view in the house.
Great job, man. Great job.
Fist into the air, and of course, a very thrilled Ashley Judd as her husband brings it on home. Let's check in on second place. Ryan Briscoe's with Jack.
And guys, that must have been the toughest moment for Ryan Briscoe, having to watch all of that. Dude, you got to stop leading races.
That's all right. We get points for it, but. What a day. I mean, it was hard work out there. You know, Dario was just better than us on cold tires. Every restart, on that green stop, I think he was a bit better than us on the first couple of laps out of the pits, and that's where we were hurting a little bit, but it was a lot of fun. You know, we had a bit of side-by-side racing out there today. It was really good fun. I'm really glad the weather cleared up. You know, the grandstands were packed, and you know, at least from inside my car, I felt like we put on a good show today.
Let's go back to that final pit stop that your crew put you through, and I know Roger had talked to you earlier in the day about being very sure on your pit stops. Everything go the way you had hoped on that final pit stop?
Yeah, I mean, it all went very smoothly. The guys did a great job in the pit box. I think I might have been a little conservative coming in and out. You know, I missed the first practice session here on the weekend, and I didn't get the chance really to practice doing my out laps and in laps, and I think I was losing a bit then. You know, Dario was here testing last week and did 1,000 laps, so I'm sure that helped him knowing what the car was going to do on cold tires. But you know, he did a great job today. He had a very fast car. I was hoping I'd be able to put the challenge to him with the lap traffic at the end, but it went the other way, and he got a bit of a better run than I did. So, you know, we'll take second and a couple of points for leading the laps, and you know, it's not all that bad.
And off to Richmond.
And off to Richmond. That's going to be another tough race. I'm sure it should be fun.
All right, let's check in with Brienne Pedigo. Brienne?
Thanks, Jack. I'm here with Hideki Muto, who's the last person on the podium, finishing third. Hideki, your second podium in a row here. Quite a race. There was a lot of cautions and debris. How difficult was it just to stay out of trouble?
Well, I was looking for one up compared to last year, and still this is my first time finish or podium finish this year, so I'm very happy. And yeah, we had a lot of things happen today, but I stayed out to trouble, and the guys did a really good job at pit stop, so we gained position there, and I tried to pass another 2 cars, but couldn't. But still I think we are in the now ballpark.
The highest finisher from Andretti Green Racing, Marty?
And his best finish of the season, his second best ever, and here's how Hideki celebrated getting out of the ride at the end of a well-earned third-place finish. Let's check in with Jack Arute once again.
Well, Dan Weldon certainly was a factor during the course of the race, and there was at one point where I actually thought John Barnes made the right call. You guys were going to go for 2 stops, and the caution comes out, kind of screws the pooch on that one. What about your drive today? The bump looked like it really raced Kane with your National Guard car.
Yeah, the National Guard car worked really well. We struggled a little bit on starts and restarts. I found that I had that kind of pushy, loose sensation, but once it came in and settled down, I thought it was very good. It worked well on the high line, which enabled me to pass. And you know, I think any time in these IndyCar races right now where you can come in the top 5, it's a good result, and it's something that we can build upon. It's not the win. But, you know, that's what we've got to keep aiming towards, and I'm sure it'll come if we keep putting ourselves in positions like we did today.
You keep saying that, and I've had this conversation with you before. How much of a coach and a cheerleader have you become with this team?
Well, I'm definitely very passionate on winning, and, you know, perhaps my expectations when I first came here were a little too much. I mean, you're up against the likes of, you know, great teams like Roger Penske's, and Chip Ganassi's. And it takes time, and I think the best thing that I can do is utilize my experience and try and pass that over to the race team. There's great people at Panther Racing. I think we've learned a lot from the troops in the National Guard, and if we all come together as one and continue to work hard, eventually we're going to get there, and I'm not going to give up till we are there.
By the way, first happy Father's Day to you. You're a new dad. Go home and celebrate.
Thank you. I hope you'll be interviewing my son in about 18 years too, so thank you.
Let's check in with Brianne Pedigo. Some news there, Bri.
Well,
Actually, I'm going to take it with Danica Patrick, and Danica had a good run today. Finished 9th. I know the car was a handful for you a couple of different times. Good. Let's go to the beginning, the first stop. You came in with a couple of flat tires. Had you run over the debris from that earlier incident?
Yeah, I must have. That's kind of one of the problems with being one of those first, few cars, is that you're much more likely to hit the debris because you're the first one there. So, yeah, we had a couple of flat tires, and that was a bummer. But I thought, I still was positive. I was like, it's not a big deal. You can just change up the strategy. And at one point, put us in the lead. And if the yellow would have come out at the right time, then we could have all been on the same sequence, and it'd have been interesting then. But, just wasn't our day. We started off okay, but, just in the longer stints at the end of the race, the car just picked up too much understeer. So we were okay with the shorter ones, but once we got leaning on that right front, it was just it just didn't really take it.
She led laps today in a second straight top 10 at Iowa. Marty?
All right, thanks, Vince. Let's take a look at the championship points race. We mentioned that Danica stayed 5th, but notice Dan Weldon. He has closed to within 5 points of knocking her out of the top.